future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
And greetings and salutations, everyone. You are now tuned in to Dr. Judy, WTF show, here in the heart of Hollywood at the UBN radio station in the Sunset Gower studios. And today we have a really titillating topic today. We are going to
Did you say tintillating?
I said tintillating. We are going to be basically getting under the covers of defense mechanisms and porn as a defense mechanism. So you might want to stay tuned and turn the radio down if you got kids, or turn them up if they're not. And later in the show, of course, we will having a very tintillating song to shrink, in our typical Shrink That Tune. I'm your host, Walt Lusk, as usual. And, of course, Dr. Judy Rosenberg is in the house as well.
And just to give you a little bit of a background. Wow! Whoa! So just for those of you who have been listening to the show, and for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, I look at defense mechanisms as an outgrowth of wounds of childhood. And many years ago, I created a mind map called Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect. And this mind map is designed to take people from the problem, dismantle it, and then paradigm shift into solution. And a lot of the work that I do is based on defense mechanisms. And people come in and they have a myriad of defense mechanisms. And what I mean by defense mechanisms is a system that people erect to make sure that they feel emotionally safe.
They erect who? Is that really where we're going to go today?
I guess I did use the word. But in a very professional context, don't you think?
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. That's right.
I'm just trying to keep you on your toes.
I know you are. I know you are. That's what I love about you, Walt. So these defense mechanisms are, in a way, they're the yin and the yang. In that, on some level, they protect us, and then on another level, they hurt us. And there are many, many, many defense mechanisms. Just to name a few.
We're gonna go through a bunch, but yeah.
Okay, just to name: overeating, smoking, using drugs, gambling, shopaholic, which I was partaking in today. Actually, one of my favorite ones.
What'd you buy me?
Right. I'll show you after the show. Okay,
or
don't be too surprised though.
I love it. It's Christmas time, when I was younger, my mom would do the shopping, and it's like, Mom, hurry up and open it. I want to see what I got you.
Oh, that's cute. That's really cute.
Because I knew it would fit.
That's adorable. So we have all these defense mechanisms, and they are there in order to protect us from the wounds of disconnect. And that's why this show is about healing human disconnect, because we are so disconnected as a society, as everything,
individual.
As globally, we're disconnected in so many ways. We've turned into what I call isms of races, isms of religions, isms of nationalities, and so these isms separate us. They can be divisional isms, and when you come down to a micro basis, where this separation comes from is actually from the very first cause, I call it, and the cause is mother-infant disconnect, and that's where everything stems from. And so
that's the genesis.
Right. And so when we're not nourished emotionally, if we're abandoned, if we're abused, if we're neglected, if we don't get what I call the emotional supplies, which is eye contact, skin contact, breastfeeding, being mirrored, which is being attuned to, being able to be soothed by mom, and then learning how to self-soothe. If these mechanisms and these attributes are not built into our repertoire, then we develop what I call the hole in the soul. And this hole in the soul is then filled with drugs, sex, and rock and roll. And yes, I do want to be a rapper. So for anybody out there that wants to sign me for
that came out before rapping was. So
Okay,
and my definition
okay.
of rap is reading awful poetry or really awful poetry. So
Oh, I kind of liked what I said.
I like what you said, but I'm not a
Thanks,
big rap fan.
so
But it is about sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah, I mean, what do we do when we're hurting? We
Escape.
we escape. Okay, and so there are many ways, and porn is a very popular means of escape, and it's a really great indicator of human disconnect when we use porn in place of a human being, when we are relating to a computer screen, or we're relating to a movie more than we are our own partner.
And there's one there's one popular website that I can name if you'd like that actually got a lot of press this week because they had an ad in Times Square for all of an hour before it got pulled down. But they had an analysis, actually you sent it to me, of 25 major cities of which is the favorite porn star actress and type of porn they prefer.
I'd
They
love to
ranked it.
hear. What did you find?
Well, all I did was I picked Los Angeles just because.
Thanks. That's a good
You
one.
know, I mean, we're here and it's a big city, and the site was pornhub.com.
Okay.
And I remember it was. Let's see, where'd it go? I lost it. And it's got to be right here.
Well, don't lose the porn, please.
I did. I just found it. It's
Okay,
right here
good.
on my
Okay.
fingers. And they're not sticky yet. Number 1 is massage.
That was so bad.
And number
so
2
bad.
is Asian. 3 is
Wait. Back up.
This is the in popularity of what's viewed on Pornhub.
Okay.
Type of porn.
So
it's
go
all,
ahead.
It's all amateur for the most part.
Okay.
First is massage.
Massage porn.
Yes.
Okay.
Either one is massaging the other, and then they kind of get involved with each other subsequent.
Okay.
Second is Asian.
Okay.
Third is teen, and we're talking about way over 18, like by 2 or 3 days.
2 or 3. Just to keep it legal, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Fourth is MILF. And those of you who don't know what a MILF is, it is mothers I like to fool around with.
Nice. Nice comeback from all the others.
And then lastly, have is casting. Basically, I guess that a model comes in and is going to do her first audition, shall we say?
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So
I did not. I learned something every day from you, Walt.
Oh, you have
Didn't
no
know.
idea.
I didn't know. I had
So
no idea.
that's Los Angeles, and then it actually came out. This was March of this year, so it came out earlier this year. And
But,
actually, if you want to know any of the articles and stuff that we do, you can actually write us at info@drjudywtf.com. And this is a call-in show. So if you really want to fire up that porn, why don't you fire up the phone instead and call us at 323-843-2826. 323-843-2826 and get on the couch with Dr. Judy.
And we love call-ins, and I'm sure that a
Absolutely we
lot
do.
of you have questions about porn, your relationship with porn, how that fits into a relationship or doesn't fit into a relationship, and how to really determine if it's going to be detrimental to a relationship. Obviously, I've treated a lot of people with porn addiction. I treat people who have also been in the porn industry. This is a very popular reason people come to therapy.
Well, based
and,
upon where your office is located, that would be fully understandable.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I find is that women in particular who get into porn have often experienced some level of sexual abuse. It's not uncommon. And oftentimes they have weak fathers. And but one of the things that I want to talk a little bit about is how people enter why people enter that industry. Because one of the things that the porn star, let's just call it a porn star or porn.
If I might digress
porn,
real quick, there was
yes.
a very, very popular porn star that started when she was 18, Sasha Grey, and I read an article on that. And
Okay.
basically, she finally came out and said she was very gung ho, got an agent, and dove in to the porn industry, and was just immediately successful.
Okay.
But she finally admitted that her boyfriend was very abusive and pushed her into getting into porn.
Okay, so now we could start talking about the repetition principle, which is why we call the show Dr. Judy WTF, because it's
Which stands for what the Freud.
And Freud came up with a very valuable concept called the repetition compulsion, which is based on the idea that we repeat unconscious patterns and we play them out. Shakespeare was right. All the world is a stage, and what we do is we set up our players to repeat our own old wounds, and then we hope that the ending is better. We hope for a happy ending.
I was going to say,
you knew I was going to say that, Walt.
You
didn't
beat me to it.
I did. I knew you were going to say it. So, just a little competitive edge on my part.
We are all seeking, especially as guys, maybe, are seeking the ultimate happy ending.
Right. And so we are wanting a better ending in terms of our relationship. And so what we do is we seek the person who, we unconsciously seek the person who is most likely to wound us so that we can replay the old play, okay, and heal. And again, and make it right. And so in this case, with this particular porn star, it sounds like based on what she talked about with an abusive boyfriend is people get into abusive relationships because they've been abused or they've seen abuse in the family, and the boundaries go down, and instead of this feeling abnormal, it feels very familial. And so therefore it's not like something that really, no pun intended, or maybe pun intended, it's not something that immediately consciously hits you, okay?
No.
It's something that creeps up on you, and then you're in it, and you think to yourself, wow, how did I end up in this relationship? And the reason you ended up in this relationship is because you're blueprinting off of the of your past dynamics.
Well, I think a
dynamics.
lot of us look in the rearview mirror, right? We've been in the relationship, we go through the whole rigmarole of the relationship, and it poops out, and then we hopefully take a step back and go, oh, now what happened?
Right.
Only to repeat it again.
So now we can see the different pieces of the puzzle. So we have the porn star, okay, and in some sense she's been numbed out, and so she's objectifying herself. And just a quick story. I remember someone who many years ago, before I was a psychologist, just somebody that I had gotten acquainted with, and she said that she did some stripping, and she also did some prostitution for a while. And it turns out that she let the man do everything to her except kiss her. So that was where she saved it. She saved it for the people that she thought were going to be the intimate ones. And so as a result of saving it, she felt that there was one small piece of her that was reserved for the relationship, and then her body was just a tool to please men, obviously make money, and that was the way she split off from her sexuality.
Split and justified.
Right.
Which are two aspects of defense mechanisms, which we'll maybe touch on.
Okay. So she split off from this piece of herself, and then she was able to handle it in whatever manner she was able to handle it. And then we also have the man, right, or whatever the other partner, whoever the other partner is that engages in the porn, and this kind of sexuality is different than relational, in the sense that when you're in a true relationship, then, you wake up in the morning and the person doesn't look perfect. Their breath stinks. Maybe they have a little bit of cellulite going on, or something is imperfect about the body. But particularly when you're engaged in porn, everything's filtered out, right? Airbrushing, lots of makeup, perfect clothes, perfect lighting, perfect angles, perfect photography. I remember seeing one photograph of a woman who was so photoshopped, right? And there's
well,
a lot
actually,
of
you
that
can
going
go
on.
online and look at porn stars pre and post of what they
Right.
look like before there's makeup, and
Right.
and you're right. In many instances, there's like I think it's you can just Google it and you can find it. There's like 25 or 30 or more of them, and then they were side by side. This is the pre and post, and you're right. The difference is sometimes like, wow, I would not recognize this person in the least if they
Right.
walked up to me and introduced themselves to I'm so and so and I look like this in real life. And you're right. But you have to understand that porn scenes in general it's not like they just fire up the camera and 10 minutes later the scene's done or whatever. I mean, they shoot the same scene over and over again until they get what they want. So you're right. It's practiced and perfected and airbrushed of sorts.
And I think part of what happens in the use of porn is that people get very tweaked in their preferences, and so
Yes.
they just want something a little pinker, or want something a little tighter, or want something a little less fleshy or more fleshy, or whatever the taste happens to be. And so because in today's world we can flip through the computer so quickly, we can flip through photographs and films so quickly, we could just keep tweaking it until it just right works for the sexuality. And then it's never ending, and then we just want a little bit more tweaked and a little bit more tweaked. So speaking of human disconnect, right? If indeed porn is a manifestation of human disconnect, then think of what that does to a relationship between people who are in a relationship. They want to relate to each other. They want to have healthy sexual lives. They want to have intimacy. And so many people who do come into my practice will be extremely upset because their husband is watching porn. And so can you imagine what that woman must feel like, knowing that her man's attention and his energy and his sexual energy and his masturbatory conquests are being redirected at these anonymous people?
And it's probably even it got worse is she's in bed asleep and he's like going, forget this, I'm going to hang out with the computer.
Right, and I talked a lot about this. I know we've done many shows on this, but one of the aspects of the wounds of childhood is that it ingrains in us a sense of low self-esteem, and it ingrains in us a sense of a negative core belief that we hold about ourselves. And so what happens in relationships is this negative core belief is triggered. So if somebody doesn't feel pretty enough or lovable enough or good enough or whatever enough, and the man, let's say, as an example, and this can be gay couples, it doesn't really matter. The point is that it's a narcissistic injury, meaning it's an injury to the self. It hurts people's feelings. Please call in. I want to know about your experience with porn. I want to know about your experience with how porn plays a role in your relationship with yourself, with your in your relationship, in your partnership, and hopefully we will get some calls.
And the number
I'd like
is
to
area
get
code
some
323-843-2826. So get on the
Thank
couch
you.
to Dr. Judy. You can even call anonymously if you'd like to.
Make up a name.
We don't care. It just
Right.
if you have a challenge with it on one end or the other, love to hear from you.
And often what happens in relationships is that people get so fragmented in their sexuality insofar as there's no integration of mind, body, soul. Okay? So let's say you're in a relationship and you feel that it's a good friendship, but there's something missing sexually or there's something missing spiritually. We get fragmented, so then we will supplement. Okay, instead of relate and communicate, and we did have last time, we did a whole thing on the peaceful healing dialogue,
PhD.
Communication, where we can create more intimacy. Instead, we fragment off and we create less intimacy, and we fill our hole in the soul by going outside the relationship and not keeping the energy within. And then this causes a lot of triggering of this negative core belief that people carry within each other. And instead of communicating and instead of bringing more communication and intimacy into the relationship, it just continues to fragment off until sometimes until the relationship has disintegrated.
Well, it snowballs
completely.
and just gets bigger and worse and worse and worse.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
It's interesting that they're talking about addictions and defenses. Psychologically unhealthy individuals use defense mechanisms such as these in much different manner. They will attempt to never feel negative feelings. And addicts and abusers of drugs or alcohol, for example, or porn, will use substances to strengthen their defense mechanisms and avoid unpleasant feelings at all costs.
That's right.
They're going to do whatever they can to not deal with reality.
Right, and remembering that this is as a result of early mother-infant disconnect, and then father-infant disconnect, and then we become disconnected from ourselves, we become disconnected from our loved ones, we become disconnected from our community, and it reverberates into a global state of disconnect. So human sexuality, I want to talk a little bit about what is the purpose of sex in a way of true intimacy? As I understand from my readings on spirituality and taking a lot of wisdom from masters in about sexuality is a pathway to the light. Okay, it's a pathway because it's highly arousing. It's one of the highest forms of pleasure that a human being can have on the planet, maybe other than eating chocolate. I don't know. No. And
you're a chocoholic now.
Well, sometimes.
Okay.
Not so much.
good thing.
But I'll take marzipan, actually.
No, I thought you'd take Heath bars.
Oh yeah, you've witnessed. Okay.
I have.
You're right. You're right.
Yes, I have. On more than one
Thanks
occasion.
for revealing my
I'm sorry.
my defense mechanism.
Do you want to give Judy a really amazing Christmas present? Heath bars.
Oh my God. Now it's out there.
There it is.
Okay. So anyway, when we make love to another human being as opposed to have sex with another human being, the consciousness behind it is unity. The consciousness behind it is that we're sharing something beautiful and intimate. When we bring porn into the picture, it's not the mind, body, soul connection. I remember drawing a diagram for a couple that was struggling with porn addiction, and what I drew was a mind, a heart, and then the genital area. And I showed this couple how they were connected on all three levels, or at least wanting to connect on all three levels. However, what was interfering is that these little other connections to porn, strippers, whatever the other connections were interfering with the intimacy. And the reason, after many sessions of therapy, not too many, because you know that I don't believe in dragging therapy out. I get right to the point. Is what was uncovered.
Yes, you do.
Right. What was uncovered was that the man was scared to death of falling in love with this woman because he had so much abandonment from his childhood. And as a matter of fact, in his case, he had many abandonments from father figures. And so in his case, he was truly, truly afraid of falling deeper into this woman and exposing his heart and losing control. So as a defense mechanism...
And probably losing more of himself.
Right. So as a defense mechanism, he decided to slip other women into the picture so he wouldn't get too close, and we called it his heart guard.
Well, he was sabotaging also.
Yeah, but he had his heart guard on, and what was surrounding his heart was all these other women and porn stars and strippers and people that he need to invite into his picture because he was so scared of getting that close to the woman. And, if he got close to her, maybe she would leave him, just like some of his major attachment figures. So you can see in this case how he tried to use this defense mechanism. The problem is that he was in love with this woman, and he wanted children with her. He wanted a life with her. He wanted to move ahead in his life. And, she wasn't that crazy about the idea of his of engaging in porn.
So he was
they
trying
had
to get closer to her, but it was pushing her away, so it kind of bass backwards.
Well put, Walt. Well put.
Yeah,
And so
it's very backwards.
So people have to have a motivation, because porn is like a drug. Okay, think about it. Sexuality is stimulating a lot of serotonin and dopamine and all of these pleasure drugs in our brain. And so when we tweak these images and we get so specific in our likes and dislikes, again, I repeat, the human qualities start looking not so good. Okay, and particularly going back to the idea that everything's just so airbrushed these days, it's impossible to compete with that level. It's
Well,
just impossible.
even you talking about airbrush. I know this is a side note, but even girls, teens, are looking at magazines of teens, and they are trying their darndest to look like that, and there's no way. They're just photoshopped and airbrushed to death.
Right.
In fact, it's very funny. Quick story: my daughter is a model, and when she was younger, I'd go on auditions with her. And I remember one time we went, and the lady looked at my daughter and says, "You look just like your photos." And I looked at the lady who hired my daughter, and I says, "Isn't that supposed to be the goal?
Yeah.
You have a model, you want to know what they look like, so you can hire them." She says, "You'd be surprised. All these other models, they Photoshop themselves to death. They don't even look close to what they're supposed to in person, and they never get a job."
That's like online dating. I have a lot of complaints about that. People will go on a date with somebody that they met online, and they look nothing like their photo, but at least that particular photo, which may have been photoshopped or may be a 10-year-old
I'm
photo,
going to say it's a 20-year-old photo.
or a 20-year-old
Yeah.
photo, at least gets them in the door, and then they think that their charm and the personality will get the rest of the job done. But often it just pisses people off to think that they've now wasted their time on a person who's out of integrity because they lied.
It's absolutely true. I had a
Right.
lady I dated with, and she was complaining about all the people lie with her, and then she told me that she lied about her age.
Yeah, well, that's
So she was
that's not
complaining
cool.
about what people do, and she did the same thing. And I'm thinking, okay.
So look, we're driven to perfection. The heat is on. We need to look good, and we need to be hot. And I get it. I'm part of my essence is in the beauty industry. Got to brag a little bit. Paul Mitchell graduate here, and spent a year learning to cut hair and indulge in the beauty industry, which I love. And so
And now
we
she does
are-
therapy.
I do.
Yes,
therapy.
and you can
Yes.
Google that, therapy.
Yes, I did a wonderful interview
Yes, she
with
did,
Win
an amazing
Claybach,
interview.
owner of Paul Mitchell the School,
Yep.
on therapy, and
Yep.
that is available. Google it. And,
Yep, sure is.
there it is. And so, yes, it's important to look good. Yes, but when we start tweaking it out too much, right? What we do lose is we lose our humanity, and we also start pairing our sexuality to something that's just not possible to live up to in real life. So imagine if someone is just so trained to like a certain figure, a certain form, and then their girlfriend or their wife doesn't fit that figure and form. What's going to happen to their sexuality? What's going to happen to their erection? If that's what they're trained, if they're masturbating to those photos, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now the girlfriend shows up and she doesn't really look quite like that. And there's been a lot of, quote, positive reinforcement going on behind her back, then there may be a problem there.
Yeah,
and then she won't understand what's happening.
Yeah, and the soldier may not be as attentive, and
exactly. And
that's insult to her injury.
Right, and then her core belief may be something like, I'm not lovable, I'm not good enough, I'm not beautiful, and then bam, bam, bam. If you put the mind map up, I could show people the
And those
bam,
of you
bam,
that
bam of it.
wham bam, thank you.
Yeah.
And then those of you that are just tuning in, we are a Dr. Judy WTF, and you can check out the mind map at drjudywtf.com. I'm your host, Walt Lusk, in studio with Dr. Judy Rosenberg. We're talking about defense mechanisms using porn, and we're probably going to dive into a few defense mechanisms along those lines.
So
the mind map is up now for those of you that are watching it live.
Perfect. So I just want you to track it for those of you who are viewing. And, of course, if you're listening, then you can go on the website and see the mind map. It's up there. And so if you start at the top left corner, you will see the wound. You'll see dark spots and the light. These represents the light of you and the shadows and the darkness of you. And then the reaction to the wound, which is our primitive reactions to when we're disconnected from, which is feelings of anxiety, feelings of discomfort, and so on. And then what happens in the DNA panel, which is the top right, is that these wounds become encoded into the fiber of our being as negative core beliefs. And so what happens...
And then we spend the rest of our lives defending the wound, however good or bad it is.
And then what happens is, in the case of porn, somebody hurts someone's feelings, activates the core belief, and then look at the middle panels. Bam, bam, bam. Chaos, defense mechanisms, and a blowout of the relationship. Okay? So the person might close down as their defense mechanism to what their husband or boyfriend or girlfriend is doing. And then it definitely takes down a piece, or if not all, of the relationship.
Yeah, well, then it also validates. See, I knew I wasn't lovable. I knew
Right.
I wasn't sexy. I knew I wasn't this, that, and the other. And
Right.
the whole thing has been a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right. And some people, I know that some people like to share porn, and, some people think that it's fun to watch porn together and to have that shared experience. It's individual taste. I'm talking about cases where the porn becomes the main
Course.
course. Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Main
But it
course.
can cause massive indigestion.
Well put. Well,
You want to dive in some of these defense mechanisms? Because they do
Go
relate
ahead.
to... The article here talks about sexaholics, which is kind of along
Sure.
those lines. Okay.
Sure.
We've talked about denying, meaning basically it's not a problem. In the psychology, I don't have a problem with this at all. Okay. Another one is lying. They'll distort the truth. I've never been with anybody else but you. Or they manipulate, right? They argue, tease, mock, and become silent or cry. I mean, they're going to put on a big scene. And the sexaholic will pout, complain, makes the other feel guilty for not making them have sex.
right. Okay.
Accusing, they'll attack their partner. Well, you're cheating on me, to defend themselves because they're the ones that are actually cheating.
Like an offensive move. Best defense is an offensive move.
That's right. And along those lines is threatening. They use threats to make the person stop talking about the problem. If you don't put out, I'm going to go look somewhere else.
So you could see that there's not a connection here. Speaking of healing human disconnect, what is the bridge that brings people back? I think the bridge is intimate communication and really talking from a place of
Unconditional love.
Of the heart. When I'm just using a piece of the Peaceful Healing Dialogue, which if you want a copy of, please
Write us at
let us know
info
and we'll
at
send you a copy.
drjudywtf.com.
Yeah, we've been sending a few of those
Yes, we
out.
have.
It's been
Yes, we have.
very nice.
All over the world.
Yes. And so hopefully there's more peace in the UK. I think we just sent one
Yeah,
out to
we
the
did.
UK. Yes. And so basically, Peaceful Healing Dialogue might go something like, when you watch porn, it really hurts my feelings. It makes me feel like I'm not beautiful enough. And then you let your partner speak. So notice in the Peaceful Healing Dialogue, you're not telling your partner what to do. You're not demeaning, devalue, destroying him or her. You're not judging or criticizing the person. You're merely sharing your experience of what's hurting you.
And it's about an I. It's not about you.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
And
always about
through
I.
that dialogue, then you can get closer to that person and develop a sense of empathy and understanding. And if that relationship is meaningful to the other party, then they're going to have to make some decisions about one of my favorite terms is Stan Tatkin's term, Dr. Stan Tatkin, who wrote the book Wired for Love, which I think is a
was
wonderful
a former
book.
show. We did.
Right. And he has a term called the couple bubble.
Couple bubble.
And so one of the aspects of the couple bubble is that within the coupledom, okay, there's a sense of safety. And there's a sense of knowing each other's emotional Achilles heels. So in the couple bubble, we don't hurt each other. In the couple bubble, we understand that really bothers the other person, so you don't step on that.
I like the analogy oasis. In other words,
like
it's
that.
me and you, and we're kind of away and safe and protected and secure from all the other crap that's going on in the world.
Right.
Stan actually liked it as well. But so whether you're like Couple Bubble or you create your own little oasis away from
Yes.
everything.
Yes.
Without one of them is judging. Without judging, right?
Yeah.
Your view of sex is pretty distorted.
Right. Well, that'll put somebody right into panel 5, defense mechanisms,
sure
and
will.
then you're going to have a blowout and clash of the isms, and that's not going to lead anywhere. But
No, it's not.
downhill all the way.
And then of course there's projecting. You have problems too. Right? I think my spouse is having an affair. She's such a prude, right? Or blaming. If we've had more sexual relations, I wouldn't have lust problem that I have now.
I love that one.
Yeah.
If we had sex more often, I wouldn't have the need to do porn or look at porn or engage in extramarital sex, whatever. And again, people who are in a relationship need to address what is going on in terms of the communication. What's the disconnect there? When I work with couples, it's really a clear diagram with the mind map, because what happens in couples work is that one person's wounds and another person's wounds mix together and then combine together and then get triggered in the relationship.
It's quite a stew.
And sex is a huge trigger.
What do you mean? 8 times a week's not enough?
For some people, it's not.
That's humor.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for reminding me.
I'm just a guy with a strong sex drive. That's another defense mechanism.
Right.
Or minimizing, okay? I really don't struggle with it that much. Maybe once in a while.
But remember, it's a we. When we're in a relationship, is the mind map still up? Could you put it back up there?
No, unfortunately, they're watching you
Oh, okay. All right, well.
as they're listening.
Panel 7, if you do go to my mind map, you'll see interconnection. And interconnection is where the light exists. It's 1 plus 1. One person plus one person is creating a third entity called a we, and that's where the light exists, hopefully.
What I like is
And,
you compare panel 1, which is basically this dark eye and this total darkness.
Yes.
And then we make it all the way through the process of panel 7 of 9, and the background is more light, and of course the eye itself and the connection is more bright and
Right,
and
because
and
it's
whatnot.
integrative.
And
It's
it's
mind,
more
body,
integrated.
soul.
Yep,
And
yep,
so
yep.
a lot of what I hear from women in particular is that when men are just sexualizing them as opposed to connecting with their heart, they feel like a blow-up doll. They feel like they're being used. And so the experience leaves them feeling less than more than.
Right. Yeah, they feel
And
like
that's
they
the
just feel like
disconnect.
they're a receptacle for just a cum bucket or something.
Well put, Walt. Very well put. I love your choice of words. Bring it on. So, yeah, I think that when we look at what's connecting and what's disconnecting, it becomes obvious. And in doing couples work, I'll often ask my patients, okay, so is what you said connecting or disconnecting? They'll recognize it in 2 seconds.
Yes, they will.
Yeah, there's no mystery. So when they say something that is blaming, shaming, criticizing, judging, they know that there's a disconnect there. They understand intuitively what a connection and a disconnection feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we could teach people this kind of languaging, then we have a better way of staying connected.
Right, and I believe it really does start with communication, right? And the best way to do that, frankly, is what we talked about last week. We did a show on communication, the peaceful healing dialogue. And if you want to get your PhD in communication, just write us. We'll send it to you. It's all on one page, and it's just follow the bouncing ball. And it's info@drjudywtf.com. Another defense mechanism is rationalizing. I don't do it every day. I have sexual needs that aren't getting fulfilled. Or a complaint. Outward complaint while inwardly rebellious. I'm never going to look at the internet again. This is my last time. and you be honest with yourself. That's not going to work. Or cockiness. I can't stop. I'm going to continue to do this. I'm not going to stop.
And there's the addiction quality.
Yes.
Right? So
Yep.
that once people are hooked into porn, then the addiction itself takes over. And then, as you know, there are 12-step meetings for Sexaholic Anonymous meetings. And I've heard of cases where people masturbate so often that their penis or their vagina becomes so raw and painful. And we have to remember our genitals are a huge organ for pleasure. And so when we need to escape and we need to pleasure ourselves because we're depressed or we're anxious or we're not mentally healthy, what we're doing is we're basically self-medicating.
Self-soothing, self-medicating.
Self-soothing, self-medicating. And by self-medicating, what I mean is we're stimulating our own neurotransmitters that bring us this extreme sensation of pleasure, which is the dopamine production and the serotonin production. And so it works. But sometimes when we're in a relationship, it doesn't work for the other party, and the we gets left out,
it takes
and
two.
the I takes over. And we've talked a lot about narcissism,
Yes, we have.
which is the injury to the self that leaves people feeling underneath very inadequate, but then they overcompensate, right, by becoming more demeaning, devaluing, and destroying, which are the 3 Ds of narcissism.
3 Ds of narcissism.
But they appear as if they're better than. Underneath, they feel worse than, and that's another form of disconnect.
Another one of defense mechanism is justifying.
Yes.
I have sexual needs that a normal person has, and if my spouse isn't going to help me meet them, then you know what? I got to go to do something else.
Right, and then think about what that does again to the we, because when we form that partnership, we have a responsibility to meet our own needs, certainly. But we have to be very, very careful because relationships are really, really delicate.
They're very fragile.
They are very fragile. And so if someone feels betrayed, if somebody feels that they're not important in that relationship, if somebody feels that they're not special and attractive and delicious to the other party, well, that's going to bring on other problems. So.
Or they might explain, another defense mechanism, tell a story that is not really accurate and uses false logic to explain why they're doing what they're doing. Well, I haven't had sex in a week, and away it goes, right? And, I've got to have it at least more than once a week. 8 days a week.
And, everything's negotiable. So 2 people sit down, they talk, and maybe somebody's sexual needs are different than the others. And so you become honest around it, and you communicate what each other's needs are and see if one person can meet the others. And if they can't, then they talk about it openly. So it doesn't create a sense of distrust in the relationship. It's very important that that trust isn't broken.
It's vitally important. And trust is, pretty much everything. And if it's been broken, then you need to take a step back and figure out, what happened, and if it's able to be repaired. Sometimes it's not.
Right.
So let's see another one. Fantasy. It's a habitual escape, right? I mean, it's healthier than doing drugs, but it's still an escape, right?
Yes.
Or displacement, or redirecting something to somewhere else. It's safe, again, quote unquote, justifiably, but again, it's not a we.
Right, and sometimes sexuality can be used as a passive-aggressive way of punishing a person.
Yes.
So that might be another example of a communication that isn't direct, but is meant to create an effect in the other person, a hurt effect or an angry effect, instead of just sitting down and saying, what you did really felt horrible to me, and so now I'm recognizing that maybe instead of just sharing who I am and what I am with you, I'm acting out in these ways, and I'm using this action to really get back at you when I'm just needing to sit down with you and tell you exactly what I'm feeling.
And be honest with myself in addition
Right.
to you. I mean, a little definition here. Someone with passive aggression indirectly expresses anger. Rather than vocally expressing displeasure, they may remain quiet. Passive-aggressive people have difficulty expressing their feelings, opting instead to let their feelings simmer in silence.
And the thing about passive-aggressive people is that you could feel it in the air.
Yeah, you can. Sometimes you can
and they
almost
may have a
slice it with a
smile
knife.
on their face, but underneath there's something seething there, and you feel it in the pit of your stomach. And in my profession, they call it countertransference, meaning that they're projecting their discomfort into you, and then you're identifying with it, and then you carry the feeling, and then you know there's something wrong, and it's a little crazy making because they may still be smiling at you and acting as if everything is cool, but it's not cool, and you're feeling that it's not, and it's not being.
It reminds me of the song.
It's a silent communication.
Yeah, silent communication.
Right.
They smile at your face all the time. They want to take your place, those backstabbers.
Didn't we do that once?
No, we haven't shrunk that tune.
Oh, really?
No.
Well, we need to include
And you know what?
that
A
on
song
our
that
Shrink
we're
That
not
Tune
going to
list.
shrink is Imaginary Lover.
Oh, I love that song.
Yeah, it's an older
Right.
song. It's a fun
Okay.
song. Yeah,
Okay.
I know we're dating ourselves. When it's about that time for us to shrink that tune.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's our show. If you would like our peaceful healing dialogue or the survey from Pornhub or any other information or question, query, suggestions for a song or topic for a show, you know, what's funny is we had some consultants early on and they said that, you know, picking a topic for a whole show isn't germane and we need to jump around. But as far as our ratings here at the station, we're third of all the shows on here. So thank you so much for listening and
Yes,
appreciate your
thank
loyalty.
you very, very much.
And we're
we
doing
really
great.
appreciate you very much.
You can reach us at info@drjudywtf.com, and you can listen to us on Stitcher, on your smartphone or online, as well as iTunes, and of course here at the station, ubnradio.com.
What about your dumb phone? Can we
No,
be heard
you,
on
you,
the dumb
you can't.
phone
You
or
can't
just the
pull us on the dumb
smartphone?
phone. It's got to be a
okay.
smartphone.
Okay.
Yeah, Android or iPhone.
Okay.
We are going to shrink the song "My Darkest Days" is the name of this group, and the song is entitled "Porn Star Dancing."
Good name for the topic.
Yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think you requested this one.
I did.
Kelly won't kiss my friend Cassandra. Jessica won't play ball. Mandy won't share her friend Miranda. Doesn't anybody live at all?
Okay, so here we've got almost like a real immature way of seeing relationships. Like, I guess she doesn't like me, you know, she won't kiss me, or she won't play ball with me, won't share her friend. Okay, so now we're getting into the porn. Share her
We
friend
are.
Miranda. Doesn't
Yep.
anybody live at all? Like, as if life is all about pushing things to the limit and creating more sexuality. And that's living.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
I mean, because Amanda won't leave me empty-handed. I got her number from a bathroom stall. Brandy just got way too much baggage, and that shit's just getting old. But I got a girl who can put on a show. The dollar decides how far you can go.
Boy, he really got the gold now.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
he's got her number from the bathroom stall. Great recommendation.
He's got
you
it
know?
all.
So
Oh, but wait, there's more.
he's in good shape. Go ahead.
She wraps those hands around that pole. She licks those lips on. Off we go. She takes it off. She takes it off nice and slow because that's porn star dancing.
Yeah, and that's the good way to do it. And
Uh-huh.
if you're not doing it that way at home, you're obviously failing sexuality 101.
In other words,
So
if you don't have a pole in the middle of your bedroom at home,
you're not happening.
it's not happening.
Not
huh?
happening.
Okay.
Right.
Well, she doesn't play nice. She makes me beg. She drops that dress around her legs, and I'm sitting right by the stage for this porn star dancing.
Okay, so I'm paying attention to she makes me beg. So this reminds me of unmet needs. So here we go with a kind of a repetition compulsion of the person and the wound of childhood and unmet needs. And so now she's reenacting something. So she's begging the person for satisfaction.
And who's in control?
Right.
Yeah. Your body's lightening up the room. I want a naughty girl like you. There's nothing hotter than a... She's Stacy's going to save herself for marriage, but that's just not my style. She's got a pair that's nice to stare at, but I want girls that have gone wild.
Right. So so he doesn't want commitment, obviously. He doesn't want a relationship because probably he wasn't really in a healthy family to begin with.
Or he might be a narcissist.
Right.
Yeah, could be a narcissist.
Which means that he has wounds. So he's
Yes,
not
he
wanting
does.
to relate to the human. He's not wanting to relate to women in a mind, body, soul way. He just wants it to be the girls gone wild style.
The girl's gone wild.
Right.
And the guy that did that got sued more than once. But I know a place where there's always a show. The dollar decides how far you can go. She wraps those hands around that pool. She licks those lips, and off we go. She takes it off nice and slow because that's the porn star dancing. And then we'll read one more paragraph here. They won't do. I need a girl that's kind of frisky, drinking with the fellas, taking shots, and getting tipsy. We always want to play because she's sexy as hell, and if I ever get in trouble, bailing me out of jail. Because she's a stone-cold stunner, hotter than the summer. When she steps up to the club, every man and woman want her. She makes me want to get a stripper pole up in my home because of the porn star dancing got me in the zone.
So I'm reading the words cold, stone cold, emotionless.
Mm-hmm.
Why get your emotions involved when all of these other aspects of her can satisfy you without hurting your feelings? Just keep it clean. Keep it on the level of sexuality. Keep away from the emotions. Let the dollar sign decide how far you want to go. And then you can guard your heart. Good plan.
Doesn't work every time.
Not every time.
So that is our show. Hope you've enjoyed defense mechanisms wrapped around a pole. Porn. And I'm your host, Walt Lusk, and this has been Dr. Judy WTF. Again, you can pull us on Stitcher, iTunes. You know what? We also have a Facebook page, and if you want to like us on Facebook, just go to Dr. Judy WTF on Facebook and like us. We want more fans. And write us for any requests, comments, queries, or concerns at info@drjudywtf. So until next time, thanks a lot for listening, and now we're going to be playing My Darkest Days, Porn Star Dancing. God bless everyone.
Yeah.